Welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. This is Lauren Fogelman with Business Success Solution, and today's topic is Beyond the Balance Sheet, Shark Tank Lessons for Savvy Accountants. And we're going to be speaking with Stephen Smith. So some things to expect from our conversation is how to translate Shark Tank's financial scrutiny into actionable advice for your clients, strategies for communicating complex financial concepts using the Shark's direct style, and our journey in adapting Shark Tank principles for client consultations. I suggest you get ready to take some notes because Stephen is very passionate about this subject and he is going to share a lot. And then we'll let you know how you connect with him as we wrap up. A little bit about Stephen. Stephen Smith is a licensed CPA and the founder and principal of Controllership Solutions, LLC. He has consulted with more than 500 individuals, advising on an aggregated net worth of over $15 billion. He's also developed his expertise to companies experiencing double-digit revenue growth in excess of 10 million. Stephen is highly regarded as a top Quicken expert and mastered all the QuickBooks certifications. He's received the prestigious Top 100 Pro Advisor Award by Insightful Accountant 8 years running, including the Top Client Accounting Services Pro Advisor recognition. If you want to find out a little bit more about Stephen Smith and Controllership Solutions, LLC, you can go to quickencoach.com and we'll have that below as well. So Stephen, I am so excited about this conversation, interested about the Shark Tank perspective and how it applies to your accounting firm. So before we get into that, I just wanted to hear a little bit about what put you down this path about applying the Shark Tank principles to your firm.
Thank you, Lauren. Thanks for the introduction. Thanks for this exciting conversation. Yes, I am quite passionate about this. I think it really just kind of originated from conversations that I've had in an advisory role with my clients. There's a lot of talk and discussion and a big push, of course, to move everyone from compliance to advisory. And there's also a lot of discussion about how to do it. And this is just, I hope, one of the many tools in a tool chest that people can use to say, oh, this is another way to have that advisory relationship with our clients. And basically it comes down to leveraging the pop culture status of personalities and saying, listen, don't take my word for it. Here's a shark. Here's an expert. Everyone generally trusts them as experts in their area. And here's what they have to say about the matter. So it's a communication style. It's a consulting approach, if you will, of saying, here you go. Like if someone needs a little bit of confidence, as I did, saying, listen, if you don't trust me, if you don't take my word for it, here it is. And there's other tools, it doesn't have to be referencing Shark Tank, the television show. You can find an article. I send articles to clients all the time and say, listen, here's something that really speaks to what we spoke about. And here's another way of, another voice, another authority, another person who's basically advocating what I might be advocating in this type of relationship. So that's probably the genesis of it. That's how it really started. How can I better influence and make a bigger impact on my client?
And is there anything else about the Shark Tank approach that really stands out or resonates with you, aside from the direct and the data that you use to see and measure results?
I think the biggest reason that Shark Tank is so relevant is because it's popular. Everyone knows Shark Tank. It's been on around for 15 seasons. Mm-hmm. Everyone's seen the episodes. Everyone understands the sharks. Everyone understands and recognizes their authority. And they're also dealing with small businesses that have almost always the same issues that we see with our clients. So there are many small businesses, they have the same issue, whether they're struggling with valuation or sales or analyzing their cost to acquire a client or marketing or any other number of KPIs. They're dealing with on the show almost the same issues that our clients are dealing with in a real life basis. So if we're able to expose that and show them, like, you're not the only one with this question. Here's an episode or here's a show, and they had the same problem. And here's the advice that you got from the Sharks. And what I really love about the Sharks is their very popular mantra: know your numbers. Know your numbers. Not a season or even episode really that goes by where they're constantly pounding know your numbers. And that just makes accountants feel good to have that kind of validation. And it really helps, enforce it with our clients, saying, listen, if you don't want to get the numbers right with me, then you better get them right, because there's a whole bunch of experts in the field saying, know your numbers.
And so many business owners really don't know their numbers. Even if they have solid 6- and 7-figure businesses, a lot of them don't get to that point of success by the data and the numbers. So with the know your numbers mantra, are there any particular numbers that you think are the most important to really be aware of?
I mean, when it comes to Shark Tank, there's a bunch of them. If you watch the show, I've kind of divided this show into 5 chapters. There's always the pitch, and then there's the interrogation. And the interrogation is really when they pepper them with questions. And number 1 is always sales. What are your sales? And that's the starting point. And it's super basic. And I think no one would argue, any business would argue, say, oh yeah, right, what is my sales? But as accountants, we can go a little bit further. Is it cash basis? Is it accrual basis? And then how does that dovetail in with receivables and collectability? And are you writing things off of bad debt, etc.? Then there's your cost to acquire a client, whether it's marketing or advertising, and analyzing and understanding that. The other big metric that are frequently asked about is cost of goods sold. And that also opens up a whole bunch of issues. If they have cost of goods sold, is it landing cost? Is it free on board? Is it free on shipping? Is it what goes into the cost of goods sold? Are they making things? Is it manufacturing environment? Is it retail environment? Is it e-commerce environment? And so that also poses a whole bunch of questions. And all of these KPIs, all of these questions, which everyone wants the answer to, and no small business never said no. But by using Shark Tank to say, this is why it's important, and this is how it's important, that just adds a little bit more fuel to the argument of, yes, we need to invest in systems, processes, procedures, so that we really have that information and that we really get that information. And that's what defines a successful from an unsuccessful pitch and business on Shark Tank. Because after the interrogation comes the negotiation and hopefully a deal. And you see what happens when entrepreneurs go into that Shark Tank not knowing their numbers, not knowing their sales, their cost of goods sold, their cost to acquire, or their balance sheet or their P&L, and they get roasted. They get burned, they get roasted, and they don't get a deal. And that's emblematic of the success that they'll have both in the Shark Tank and as a business. And whether a client wants to go on television and seeking investors or not, they do want their business to be successful, and they can see that. So they can see the direct result of not knowing their numbers in a 10-minute segment on television, which everyone has the attention span for.
And not that all business owners want to go on Shark Tank and be exposed and have everybody watching them. That takes a lot of courage to do that. But I think the numbers that you identified are really, really important and helps business owners to make more strategic and informed decisions than just winging it on their guts. So the 3 that I got were the sales, it's client acquisition, and cost of goods sold. Was that correct, Stephen?
Yeah, that's just 3 of many, and there are many.
Yeah.
That just starts a conversation for sure.
Okay, so is there anything else that you found business owners, firm owners can take away maybe as a learning tip regarding the Shark Tank philosophy and approach?
Yes, I think that each shark has kind of a personality, and each shark has a brand. And you can leverage these personalities and these brands to convey an important concept. For instance, Mr. Wonderful, the most polarizing, Kevin O'Leary shark, is generally the harshest one, right? He's kind of the bad guy, so to speak. And he's the one that will basically say, money won't cry for you. You shouldn't cry for money. This is business. This is reality. And it's nice to basically pull upon that when you have some bad news to deliver to a client. So it doesn't have to come from me or you. It doesn't have to be you delivering the bad news. You can say, if Kevin O'Leary were here, here's what he would say. So you can basically pull off of that. Damon John, who wrote a book called The Power of Broke, he's all about, hard work, bootstrapping, and no excuses. So when you get these clients that basically complain, oh, I can't compete, it's not fair, the big guys are eating my lunch. It's like, hey, you got to lean into your strengths, and you're more nimble, you're more flexible, and use this power of growth to your advantage. And so now you're basically saying, don't take my word for it if you don't think I'm an authority in the area. Here's a book that hopefully I've read, Power of Broke. Here's Damon John, and here's again another couple clips of his. Hiring. Every entrepreneur struggles with hiring and people and staff. And it's, again, this is something that, Barbara Corcoran will kind of reemphasize. She was a real estate agent. It was all about people and having the good people and having the agents. And she'll basically say, you got to invest in your people, because if you don't invest in your people, you're not going to be around for you. They're not going to put you the mile. So again, it's having that conversation. It's when you're having these conversations and when these things come up with clients that they always do. It's like, well, I can't find good people, and like, well, what are you actually doing to retain them, or what are you doing to really motivate them? What are you doing? Well, here's what Lori would say if she were here, or here's possibly how they're going to do it. Maybe let's take a different approach, and then it's, oh, okay, yes, well, Lori does know what she's doing. Kevin O'Leary does know what he's talking about. And again, it's not just coming from you. You're the conduit for these messages.
And part of what I'm hearing then is that with Shark Tank panel, they have all these different personalities, and they all bring something unique, a different strength or perspective to the conversation regarding looking at a business and what's going to help to make it succeed versus failing or stagnating. So some of the things that I'm hearing is being able to detach from the numbers and talk about them without the emotion, because there's a lot of stuff people have around money coming in and going out. Also, that you don't want to have someone that is making excuses. You want to be able to really use them as a springboard and come from a place of strength and insight, as opposed to taking more of I'm different and this is only happening to me. So taking that unique victim stance. And then the last thing is, and I think that this one is so important, investing in your people, because I believe at this point, it is harder to replace a really solid team member than it is a bad client. So those are some of the things that I'm hearing you saying. When was it that you started using Shark Tank maybe as a framework for consulting? So, and how has that been beneficial for you as well as your clients?
I'd say it probably originated pretty early on with the show, just as a matter of conversation, as a matter of like, hey, did you see this? Did you see that? Did you watch that? Because when it first came out, it was very, very popular, and everyone was watching it. So it just really became kind of a point of conversation. And then I started to really see the direct correlation between the show and what my clients were going through. And then I was able to basically draw that parallel for the clients. And then I was really able to see how it resonated with them. And when it resonated with them, I could see that, oh, that's where light bulbs really started to go off and kind of click with clients. And I said, this is very successful. So then I really started to take it a step further several years later, when more and more episodes were on YouTube, where I'd actually find a relevant episode or a relevant segment and then send it to the client. Say, listen, this is what we were discussing. This is what I'm talking about here. And here it is in very entertaining 8-minute segment. And look at what happens. You can see the full life cycle of the business. They come in, they talk about it, they're interrogated, they go through the negotiation, and then they may or may not get a deal at the end. And so they can almost, the business owner can see that, and they can say, oh, okay, let's learn from that. So that's really when it started, and that's kind of the growth of that.
And part of what I'm getting is that it's really been an evolution from you. And also that I think it's something that differentiates you from other people that are maybe doing consulting and offering a similar type of service, is being able to fall back on the Shark Tank segments. But the main thing that I really like, that I think is brilliant, Stephen, is that you're not just talking about a concept, because not everybody absorbs concepts in the same way, but you're able to give them a real life example that they can see, watch, hear, so that they can really take what you're telling them and see how it's been applied. And that makes it easier for some business owners to be able to integrate it or get that light bulb moment of, okay, that makes sense to me, because then they get to see the story of it.
Yes, and that's it. Like it's a story, and there's a main stage speaker that says, a picture's worth 1,000 words, but a story is worth 1,000 pictures. And I take it a step further, and I say a flow chart or a diagram is worth 1,000 stories, because that's another aspect I really like to draw. I like to flow chart things. But yes, a story really does help resonate and click in the message that you're trying to convey.
And so how have you found that your clients actually respond to that Shark Tank communication style? Anything that you've noticed along this journey?
I have. I mean, it's the reason I'm so passionate about kind of sharing this with people is because I have seen a lot of success where people have thought it, and it's the best validation when you're telling it to the business owner, and the business owner is kind of using that same thing to motivate or to explain to their staff the next step. All right, here's how we're all going to get on board, because then that, okay, not only did it click with them, but then they clicked with them so well that they're now teaching it to their staff as kind of a lesson to kind of move in a different direction. And sometimes it can be all different areas too. Sometimes it's not just knowing your numbers and just reinvesting in the bookkeeping and accounting process. That's always very important and close to our heart. But sometimes it's just about the people, about growth, about strategy, all of those different aspects.
Nice. So it sounds like this has been something that appeals to business owners, regardless of their personality type. There's always an angle that you could take to be able to connect with them and remove some of that resistance. Anything else that we missed that you just wanted to add in? Because I think we touched on so many different aspects of that Shark Tank style.
It's not just, Shark Tank is the most popular, and it's a very pop culture, but it's about leveraging things that are well known. And I do the same with expressions. Everyone's familiar with, the 80-20 rule, known as the Pareto principle. And there's kind of an expression that kind of, pick the low hanging fruit. So pick the low hanging fruit is generally, hopefully something that everyone kind of understands, even if they don't know the exact, purpose and where it came from. They understand, yeah, we're going to do the easiest stuff first. That's going to give us the most, another expression, bang for your buck. And so when you're talking to clients, you're saying, listen, we're just going to pick the low hanging fruit. And that's like, let's start off with bank reconciliations. Let's start off with, building up your file. Let's build up reconciling your balance sheet. And then you can build on these small incremental wins to get to bigger and bigger wins, to get to bigger and bigger, developments. So it's about pulling from expressions. And that's also the other aspect of it. It doesn't have to be Shark Tank. You can, like I said in the beginning, I used to send articles to people, or here's a book you should read, or here's a podcast that you can listen to. All things that can kind of help get the message across.
Mm-hmm. And it sounds like it's just a way of being able to maybe give another approach to help with them kind of integrating what you're saying and being more likely to follow through.
You got it.
Anyway, Stephen, you made some really powerful points today. I always enjoy our conversations together. Some of the things that we covered was translating Shark Tank's financial scrutiny into actionable advice for your clients, strategies for communicating complex financial concepts using the Shark's direct style, and the journey in adapting Shark Tank principles for client consultations. So I really appreciate you sharing all this, your angle and your perspective on how you use this for client consultations. I think you made some light bulb moments for some people. And if somebody wanted to connect with you and Controllership Solutions LLC, what's the best way for them to be able to do that?
Certainly on LinkedIn, Stephen Smith M, and also my website, quickincoach.com.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Stephen, for the engaging conversation.
Thank you, Lauren.
This is Warren Fogelman with Business Success Solution, showing accounting firm owners how to double their income working half the time.